Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday night edition of LFC Transfer Room's YouTube stream. If you haven't already, please do give the channel a like and a subscribe. And I'm joined tonight by Colin. We're a little bit late because for the past couple of weeks, I've not been here. I ran the London Marathon last week, and thank you all for your support. I was just, basically speaking to Colin about the experience, and I was like, actually, we probably should have done this on stream. But it was great. So thank you all for everything and all the kind words, on Twitter and on the socials that you gave to me. It did really, really mean a lot. I actually had a Sharpie pen before the race, and I wrote down on my legs things that inspired me. So I had like my family there, I had my children's name. I had like people who sponsored me and certain things that they said. And actually I put LFCTR on there too, because it's not just the contributors who did, like people like Colin were fascinating, like just absolutely amazing, like fantastic. But just the support that the community gave as well was brilliant. So yeah, you were tattooed on my leg with a Sharpie pen, guys. So thank you very much for that. Colin, we've got a bit of a big show actually tonight, and usually we're on the match preview stream because we're used to the Thursday Sunday slots, right? When we play. Obviously we had the dreaded 12:30 kickoff once again though, so we are actually looking at the not the match preview but the post show, the post match as well. And I wish it was a better match that we are commenting on. I mean, what were your thoughts on today? We will dive into it, but initial thoughts straight away.
They just, they look dead. They just look dead. Like they just look. It's upsetting. It's upsetting to see it. To see them in this situation, to see them, to have it kind of come down to this after so much. I'm sure struggling and fighting for results and keeping yourselves in it for so long. To see that it's probably going to end this way it's just hard. It's just hard to take. And to me, it's harder to take with the like dramatics around it, around how it's been going, the attitude, I think specifically from some people, and we're going to continue on to that, but it's a really unfortunate and very sad way, I think, for this kind of chapter in our beloved football club's history to close. So it just sucks.
Yeah, it's bonkers. I know Virgil actually came out and said it. He questioned the mentality of some of the players. Like, don't you want to win the league? A couple of weeks ago, Robbo said the front line have to do better. It's almost like a mutiny in there. At the moment, players pointing fingers at each other, and rightly so, because, the performances haven't been good ever since that Manchester United knockout FA Cup. If I'm honest, it's just been a very bizarre situation and set of circumstances. I've never known a football team to actually get worse when their injury crisis has gotten better. I think in hindsight, all of us would say stick with the youngsters, the likes of Bobby Clark and Jayden Danns. But at the same time, it's a lot of toll on them as well. And they can definitely finish this season with their heads held high, those youngsters. They were nothing short of first class, and I'm so glad they got to experience Wembley in the Carabao Cup final because they did themselves proud. But it does feel like we're going out with a bit of a whimper. We've got 3 big games, 3 quite difficult games left as well. And we are obviously, again, crazy. 2 weeks ago, we were actually not safe in the Champions League. Again, you could say mathematically the league is still possible as well if Liverpool win their last remaining games. They'll finish on 84 points, but we'd require City to drop 7 points and Arsenal to drop 6, which is, City, especially Manchester City, they just don't do that in a title run-in. Spurs have 6 games remaining. Liverpool have 3, but obviously Spurs have 2 this week, 2 quite tough games, actually. A couple of London derbies. They sit 15 points behind us. So if they do drop 3 points in their remaining 6, one of which obviously is at Anfield next week, Liverpool do secure the top 4. So it is likely that, we will secure top 4. And I think, you and I have spoken on the group WhatsApp and have said, actually, if you would have offered us top 4 in a Carabao Cup final and a win, we probably would have taken it at the start of the season.
And we would have. I think the majority of people that we speak to, whether it's in the WhatsApp or people that I know, like Liverpool fans that I know here in the States, like that's what we realistically, should have been, been aiming for the whole time, with the amount of turnover, that we've had, and especially to compound it with it, being Jurgen's last season. Like there's a lot of drama around that, and there's a lot of, it's, tons of media fanfare, and like it's a lot of distractions, honestly. Like it's a lot of abilities to get distracted. So with that, top four is the minimum. It's the thing that we have to get every year, and so with, if we would have said secure that and we get a trophy, we would have taken it. It just is, from the potential of where we were. I don't know, what was that?
Quadruple.
Yeah, 2 months ago. It just sucks. I was thinking when you were saying, since the Manchester United game, I feel like I don't remember a great string of performances after the League Cup final. Like after some of those players started coming back healthy again, like since then, I don't feel like it's, I just don't feel like it's been the same. It's not been the exact mentality that you need to close those out. It's not, frankly, it's not been clinical enough in any phase of the play, really. I don't think to win those matches you need to win more than one title a year, or win a cup in the league. So disappointing still, but is, I think, still a positive season.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you know what? Like, I do think that some of the lads peaked in the cup final. I think our fans perhaps peaked in the cup final as well, because that was electric. I've, seen the travelling cup many, many times, but that in absolute full swing, and the scarves go in like that. That for me was brilliant. And it does feel like our season peaked at the cup final, but at least we ended with a, with a victory. It's going to be really interesting next season and see what comes in, and we'll go from there. But speaking about next season, I cannot believe what I saw on the sidelines today. If I'm completely honest, I've never seen it in the tenure of Jurgen Klopp, but especially I've never seen it from an animated Mohamed Salah. And we obviously see him when he comes off, he throws a strop, which is a good thing, because I'm glad. I love seeing players like who don't want to come off and who want to keep playing. I'd be really concerned if they did a Bruno, not so long ago, and actually did want to come off.
Right.
But during the game today, there seemed to be a huge disconnect between Jurgen Klopp and Mohamed Salah, and they 100% came to verbal blows. You're not going to tell me otherwise. When Darwin Núñez comes in and steps in as the peacemaker, something is kicking off. Salah was quoted as saying, "If I speak today, there will be fire." And he also rejected the chance to speak to any of the media. I mean, what was your initial reaction? Because obviously West Ham scored the goal, and the TNT, the coverage that I was watching, cut to David Moyes, who seemed to be like laughing and joking with Salah, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I think Moisey was peacekeeper between Salah and Klopp as well, and then obviously they played the replay, and I was like, what has one Jurgen said for Mo to react like that, and what has happened for Mo to react like that? Because you quite clearly see Jurgen. I'm not pinning blame. I wasn't there at all, but I'm just saying it from my perspective. It was Jurgen moving towards Salah, and then Salah having the outburst, and Jurgen moving away, and Salah keep on going. So again, listen, I don't know who the instigator was, because Salah could have quite easily said something before the cameras cut onto them. But again, for me, I was like, this isn't right. This isn't Liverpool. This isn't the Jurgen Klopp tenure that we've become accustomed to since 2015. I mean, what was your initial reaction?
It was definitely very confusing as well. I think off the jump, it was very similar to yours, which is like, wait, what is actually happening here? Like trying to sort out the dynamics of, okay, like how did that even occur? How do we get there? I think on the replay, I think you can kind of see that Jurgen, Mo's going to get subbed on, and Jurgen goes over to him to give him like a little pat on the back or something. And I don't know what is said in that, but whatever it is, it makes Mo react with some intensity, and whatever he's saying is clearly very animated. Um, ba- based on the kind of current form, and his history, my thought is that it is more of a Mo problem than it is a Jurgen problem. But I talked about this on, I can't remember if it was last week, the week before. All the bad streams, all the bad days are, for Liverpool just kind of seeming to like meld together, which is, you know discouraging. Um, but I was saying, sometimes I think Jurgen's method of kind of getting people up for the fight is a lot of like, or can be a lot of like yelling, and a lot of, very like bombastic, sort of rah. And I think for a lot of people, I think that's a really great way to motivate them. I think it works, at pretty much every level of sport. From like from a teenager, especially from like teenagers on. If you pick your right moments, and you need to get like that, you can really get people playing for you in that way.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like, you're picking the right moments. Mo is not in a good place at the minute, and he hasn't
Yeah.
really been since January. If I'm honest, he's come back from AFCON. He's not done a lot. He got injured, and he's never injured. He's probably frustrated there. And I do agree with you. I think that Jurgen is always like, come on, like, with Darwin or Luis, or Virgil, if they have a bad performance, he knows that he can get on their back, and they want to go out there and throw everything in the kitchen sink at their next performance. But Mo doesn't seem like he's in that space at the minute, and he looks as though he's dejected and jaded. And I don't know if a deal's been done. Obviously, none of us do, but that's what it feels like. It does
Very
feel like his head is
cynical.
elsewhere.
Yeah, it seems very cynical to me from him. Like, it feels like, in some of my coaching, you will definitely have. I've definitely had players, that are, if you're trying to get players riled up in that way, that are, when they're very cynical, they're going to try to like make jokes, or like to cut through or undercut that sort of like motivational technique by just being like, apathetic, or, you could use a lot of different adjectives. And I think Mo, and we've seen this at times, that he can be petulant. He can be, um, I think I think it's something that probably after all these years, and with the, um, with him knowing that he's leaving, I don't think that that's something that is particularly going to be working for Mo, to get him to provide this kind of performances. And frankly, I don't know if those kinds of performances at this point, uh, of the season, and at this point, maybe with his time here at the club, that's really possible to find it again. Um, there's just not enough
He
time,
just
and you have to want to.
and again, like this time, he's not that far behind the Golden Boot, or he wasn't before. I think he's 3 goals behind, and I would have thought he'd be chomping at the bit to have every single free kick, every single opportunity to score. Like, fair play, he squared it to Darwin, and I think it was Kufal who made an amazing interception.
Mhm.
But Mo takes that chance on. He doesn't square it, he doesn't pass it, he doesn't hug the touchline. He wants to be the main man, and we don't see it at the minute. And I think, yes, it does reflect his confidence at the moment, and perhaps he's feeling a bit of pressure. But we also know that he is a perfectionist. He hates the idea of not being good enough, and that's what's driven him for such a long time for Liverpool Football Club, and that's what made him such an integral player. So maybe he's frustrated with himself, and today that was taken out on Jurgen. Again, we won't know the situation until a day or two, or maybe even never. you know, what happened or what was said today, but I'm sure that it will come out one way or another. It probably
What
already
was
is. I've not checked
what was
Twitter.
what was the Mo quote that there would be
There
fireworks, or
would be
there would be
fire. Yeah, there'll be fire.
that
Which
seems like to me that he's like,
again, I don't know where that quote came from. I've just
yeah,
been, you know, given it. So
yeah. I that seems to me like he like feels like he has something to expose about Jurgen, or has something to like, something that would be, tabloid fodder, or like somewhat scandalous. Like, but
yeah,
to me that's like a sign of someone who's in the wrong, who is like, well, if I speak now, you're gonna really, have, uh you're gonna really see how it is, or you're gonna really see that it's actually not me, that it's actually
yeah.
him.
Or
To
he's going
me,
to
it's
turn around and
just
say, "Do you know what? I'm going to tell everyone that I'm leaving." And it was a done deal ages ago because they
right,
don't want me, or Edwards don't want me. You know,
right,
whoever it is. So do you know what? It could be something like that even.
yeah, that's true, that's true.
Anyway, moving on. Our third agenda item is something that I just cannot see, and I'd be so disappointed in every single Liverpool player if this is true with 3 games left. Has Klopp lost the dressing room? I think, David asks the same question as well, actually, in the chat about, is the dressing room gone, knowing that he's leaving? And lots of people are quite annoyed that we know that he's going, and the leak happened so early, his announcement happened early. But I do generally think if his mind was made up, that was going to be leaked, and it's far better for Jurgen to come out and say that than anybody else. But do you think the players now have one potential eye on one Arne Slot coming in and think, do you know what, I'm going to save myself. I'm not going to push myself too hard. Champions League is all but secure. They should have won the league, if I'm completely honest. They had it in their hands, but it seems like after that Palace game, that's it. They've just washed their hands with everything, because that performance at Everton was nothing short pathetic.
Hmm.
And at times, like the performance today, it was okay, but it's not the Liverpool that we know enough of Jurgen Klopp. And, it's, again, a very apathetic and dejected performance. And, for me, Robertson and Diaz were the best players on the pitch. I felt Gravenberch did himself, quite well too. But apart from that, it was just very lackadaisical and very pedestrian.
I think, I think you can lose, and I think this is probably the situation that we're in, where you can lose part of the dressing room without losing all of it. In fact, I think probably you almost never lose all of it. If you get to the point where you've lost every person in the dressing room, there's no reason that that person should be there. Um, there are definitely people, that players in that team, that care about giving their last effort to try to win the games left. Yeah, I mean, Robertson, Diaz, I think, are two great examples. You won't see those guys. Um, you won't see those guys not giving at least the physical effort of running up and down. We can have debates about quality, and if the quality is big enough all day, but at minimum, they're going to run. And that is the bare minimum. That is the only thing and I think you're probably right, that there are some people in the team who we may or may not have already been speaking about, which they're probably already have an eye on the door, um, and will not want to be swayed by a new manager, regardless of who it is. Maybe short of Zinedine Zidane, which is, won't be happening.
No.
So there's always people that are going to kind of give up, because they see themselves as the priority, and focusing on, what's next for them, or the Euros, or whatever it is. But um, you can definitely see the fight still, I think, in some people.
Yeah. And the frustration in those people as well, like
Yeah.
Virgil. I still see that in Virgil. I know that some people say that he's quite casual, but he's always been casual. Like
Mhm.
he never gets out of third gear in terms of, what he does, because he doesn't normally have to. Um, but again, like running, you've just hit it on the head. Like, it is the bare minimum. And if you are not going to run, get off the pitch then, because other people will run. And that's why I absolutely fell in love with Dirk Kuyt, because he was signed as a finisher, and he wasn't a finisher, and we found the way to play him on the right hand side of midfield. And he was such a phenomenal servant to Liverpool Football Club because he gave everything every single match, which is why the likes of Diaz and Robertson today and Harvey Elliott, I would never slate, because yes, in terms of end output, maybe it could have been better, although not today, because we're talking about Diaz who grabbed an assist and Robertson who got a goal. But for me, if they're running, and I'm talking about proper running, I'm not talking about just running for the sake of it. That is the bare minimum. We've seen Conor Bradley do it up and down that right flank, and he gets the plaudits, and rightly so. So to see Liverpool not do that, to not press, to not be, that gang press and heavy metal style, it just doesn't sit right with me. And I don't know if that is Klopp losing the dressing room, or, like you've said, are people now just thinking, the Euros around the corner, best stay fit?
Yeah. I think there's, Steve said in the rumors said Klopp lost the dressing room last year. My thought is, if you continue to hear rumors, it's either one of two things. It's either they're either true, or they're being started by the same person or the same group of people, to try to sway benefit. So we can either believe that he's lost the entirety of the dressing room. That seems unlikely to me. That, one of the most respected, most highly thought of managers in the world has lost the support of the entirety of the dressing room. Or what seems more likely to me is that there are some people in the dressing room who see themselves as a worldwide brand, someone who needs to have a like media presence and a media protection, and needs to kind of, I'm not saying that Mo Salah directly himself is leaking these things, but what we do know is that people's representation tries to manipulate stories at every possible turn. So if we want to talk about media spin, then that's certainly something that representatives of people who want change, and I'm assuming Mo either wanted something to change or wants a change of scenery. I think that would be very advantageous for them to try to make that spin. So,
and right now it's the perfect opportunity for him to pack up his bags and go to Saudi.
it is.
I'm not saying that is going to happen, but with 1 year left on his contract, if he's not going to extend, then surely Edwards and co are looking at the possibility of cashing in, which would frustrate Mo, because he wants Champions League football, as Dave quite rightly says. He wants Champions League football. He wants to be the best. He wants to be the elite, because that's what he's known for the past 6, 7, 8 years. Let's not forget, in his first season, he absolutely blew the Premier League goal scoring record away. And he does seem like he's cutting a frustrated figure at the moment, and it does seem that he's just not himself at the minute, and Liverpool need him to be that amazing superstar that he has been for so many years. Let's talk about the team selection today. Was it a shock that Darwin Núñez was dropped to the bench at all?
No. No. I think his form kind of dictates that. If you mix that with, we don't know for sure that he would be a locker room or a dressing room problem, but if you can't consistently put out a minimum level of effort and have that combined with, when you're a striker, you have to, your first and foremost job is to score the goals. I was listening to the NFL Wrap at the end of, I believe that was the post game show from Monday from last week, and one of the guys on there was, that is the main job of a striker. Like, that's their first and foremost job, is to kick the ball really hard and put it on net, and that eventually those will start to go in. And if we're not doing that, and there's a question about how hard they might be playing or how hard they might be running, That doesn't surprise me. It's also very possible that it could be something that like he's been dealing with some sort of small injury over some period of time that he was playing, he was really trying to play through and just pushing through it, and it's like just not right. We see this. I'm thinking about the hockey, the NHL playoffs. You'll see guys who are incredibly important to those teams all the time. They get to playoff time and they're like, like they just aren't putting up numbers that way. And when their season ends, you just find out that they've been, they broke their wrist 6 weeks ago and they've just been playing, with and it happens. So I'm not saying that it is definitely a bad attitude, but if there are multiple factors affecting his performances, it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't start.
And I would say similar to Szoboszlai, because before his injury, he was electric. I mean, I thought, oh my gosh, this man is like everything and more that I wanted from Naby Keita. As our previous number 8, he was dynamic, he was athletic, and he can't get into the starting 11 now. And he's such an enigma in terms of where has this player gone from RB Leipzig, who we seem cursed, by the way, when we ever buy players from RB Leipzig. Luckily, Sadio Mane didn't come directly from Leipzig, but he is an alumni. And again, it's just perhaps the same thing's happening with him. Maybe he's not fully recovered, but we needed him back. Not fully recovered, get a pre-season, and then he'll be back again. But there are a few players like that.
There have been a couple of times where Dom's looked like a shell of himself from the first 10 games. You're right. He was a bolt of lightning out there. He was just covering everywhere. And since some of those injury worries, it was 2 or 3, it might've been the Palace game where he just like gave the ball away, like in possession, just like, I don't know where it looked like he was trying to go with the ball. I don't know what maybe is affecting him off the field, but like it just is not his level. It's not, and I refuse to believe that that's a downturn in actual quality. It doesn't just fall off a cliff that easily. And I think you make a great point, which is to say that it would not surprise me at all if he's another one who might be, kind of suffering through some things in order to try to make himself available for, what he understood as like a really important, especially since Jurgen's, announced that he's leaving, something that he really wanted to be a part of, and that wouldn't surprise me at all if there are several of those guys who are kind of playing through stuff and just to make themselves available because they know that they're not going to get a chance to be a part of his teams.
And also to be the part of a potential title winning squad. He probably thought back to Camerlin and think, I'm going to help the lads win the league in my first season. Like, how can you top that? So maybe he's pushed a bit too hard too. But it's going to be so interesting when, pre-season hits and we see the ins and the outs, because while some people have said it's not going to be a massive reshuffle because it's not needed, we've got 3 massive, I know Edwards is returning, but 3 massive new hitters in Slot, Hughes, Edwards. They're not going to be happy with what they've seen over the past few games. There are going to be players, I think, who are going to have very difficult conversations in the next few weeks and months, with those 3 people. And I'm hoping, if you're not up for it, if you're not on the bus, you're off it, and there's the door. And I don't wish anyone to be sold, and I'm quite level-headed about that. I wish that, if Mo says, actually, do you know what, I'm going to, whatever happened at the end of last season happened, I'm going to get back to my best, then keep him, but at the same time, if you're not on the bus, you're off it. What do you think or what do you think is next really for Liverpool? Because yes, we have Tottenham Hotspur at Anfield, but Tottenham actually have a really tough run of fixtures over this next week. They've got 3 games in 7 days. They've got Arsenal tomorrow, Chelsea on Thursday, and then us obviously on the Sunday 4:30 kickoff. That's a tough schedule, isn't it?
I'm very happy that we're third on that list and not
Mm.
first. If Arsenal were last on that, we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now. Arsenal seem to get all the breaks when it comes to when they play a team. There's always some key injuries, or Cole Palmer has a cold. It's always something. Um, so it's nice that hopefully we can get Tottenham at the end of that stretch, because that is going to be absolutely no fun for them. Um, I keep saying that, like, eventually we are going to turn. This downturn is going to turn, and we'll be back amongst the wins. It feels very similarly to me to what happened in the like uh, middle last season. Was that like December, January, where I felt like we played Brighton and Wolves like 3 times each within a 2 or 3 week span, which just like horrible, horrible results. Um, and eventually it turns. Now, what is that? Is it going to happen before the end of the season? I, I don't, I don't know. Um, I don't know if it's, I don't know if there's enough time to arrest the momentum and get it moving in a different direction. Um, it seems like even with all of the, or as much luck as we can get, we're still only getting draws. Um,
Even
I
today,
just don't know.
I thought, even today against West Ham, I thought, okay, well, we're 2-1 up,
Hmm.
and we deserve to be. I thought we had the better share of possession. I thought that we did well with the chances that we had, but I always thought that they would score. It's just a bizarre thing, absolutely bizarre. John has a really good question, actually. Thoughts on many new players that we need to sign to refresh the squad? I'm not going to ask you which players you think, but perhaps the positions in
Hmm.
which you think that Arne Slot comes in, hopefully. And I think it's more or less a done deal now, but anything can happen in
Hmm.
football. Um, what areas do you think he's looking at?
I I don't see any way that there's not one or two attackers that are coming in. Um, and I think that number can really fluctuate depending on what's going to go on. I at this point, I would probably believe in equal amounts that we would have like a almost clear, almost total clear out of the forwards, or that there's only one that's going to go. I don't know that in my mind there's much differentiation between those two options at the moment. And you mentioned it. I think some of those players are going to have real challenging sit downs with Michael Edwards in the next month. And I don't know that they're all gonna like what they hear. Um, so at least even if most days we have to get someone on that wing who's gonna understudy. So I think it's at minimum one. There's no. Steve says 7 players out. There's no chance we roll over 7. I would be shocked if it was more than 4. 4 like main players in or in and out. So like four total.
I
I
mean, you're
just don't
looking at
see.
Thiago, whose contract expires, Matip,
Yep.
whose contract expires as well.
Yep.
They're the two who are the most obvious out the door. And again, I can't. I generally think, as much as I don't want it to be, I think Mo's the third one.
I am of the opinion that it is. It's not that I don't think he can do it anymore. I just don't. I don't think that there is a better time to part ways, or that there will be a better time to part with. Like, we're switching over a manager, someone who has not been proven at a very, very top level. I don't know that Mo is going to want to hear, uh, hear tactical nuances from him at 31. Like I just don't. It seems like with a contract running down, it seems like to me that the best time to have that breakup is now.
Yeah.
So to me, that's at least 3. I think the
Adrian, Steve obviously says Adrian as well, which I don't really
I
class as a
almost
first teamer
yeah
outer.
yeah
Like, yeah, just say goodbye to Adrian and thank you for everything. And I don't class that as a first team out the window. But he is right. That does still save us quite a lot of money on the wage budget, funnily enough.
a ton.
And same as Nat Phillips. If Nat Phillips goes, let's not forget he's on £60,000 a week.
Correct.
So if Phillips eventually gets that move that he's been destined for the past 4 years, big wage difference.
And I guess I had kind of forgotten about this as well, that this might be the time for Kelleher to go as well. He's proven himself when he's needed to start. So maybe the number is closer to 7 than I initially thought. I don't think take into consideration as much the players just running down their contracts and will be going. So Thiago has barely been a part of this team.
5 minutes. 5 minutes Premier League football all year.
And one training session, one training session video. So I almost and poor Joel Matip doesn't probably deserve to go out that way. And if he's not fully healthy, I still would like to give him a 6-month contract just to have him be able to build his fitness back up. Nobody will be complaining there. So if you count those guys in, then maybe it does look closer to 7 with Kelleher, maybe getting a move. I think the one place that we will try to add someone without immediately losing someone is actually a defensive midfielder. I don't know that Endo at 31 and his skill set that he has fit very well with a double pivot in the way that Arne Slot might need to or might like to play. And then and then a center back, I think. You need
left back for me as well. I think left back for me too. I think Robbo's not getting younger. Simicas is okay as a squad player.
Yeah.
He's not going to get much better. I don't think Slot's style of play is going to suit him any better, if I'm honest.
That's a good point.
I could see him perhaps going. I think it's a really good point that you made about Kelleher. I know I love him, and I would wish him nothing but the best to get first team football because there's many sides. He could, I hope he's not, obviously, but he could be number 1 for Manchester United and doing a 10 times job better season this season than Onana, and Manchester United are a huge club. I'm sure he won't go there because of his Liverpool links, but that's just my example of that's how high he can play.
Correct. What do you think would be a reasonable, having said that, and I agree with that. I think that is his level. Having said that, what is a fee you'd be happy for him?
Well, listen, I look back to James Trafford. Yeah, I look back at James Trafford, who didn't really play any time for Manchester City, and he got sold to Burnley, I think, for just short of £20 million last summer after a good Euros.
Yeah,
Kelleher's got to be double that, surely. He's now a proven Premier League goalkeeper. I think he's on par with Alisson for the amount of starts he's made this season in a Liverpool shirt, and I don't think he's done himself any negative or warrants any negative slander his way. I know that he had a couple of dodgy games, but as in I say dodgy, again, he's still better than I would say 80% of the goalkeepers in the Premier League that when he has played. He's just not Alisson.
Yeah, after he settled into a couple games, I think you're right. I think the first couple were a little bit dicey, but with goalkeepers, and you see this across, all across football, but definitely across different sports as well. Goalkeepers need consistency. And once they start getting the consistency is when you start to see their real form. And I think once he settled in a little bit, it was no issue at all. I think 35 to 45 is where you should hope. And honestly, I think that with our goalkeeping prospects that we have already in our system, I think that can then just go straight to one of these other positions that we're speaking of. Which would be phenomenal. And you're right. There's no ill will towards him at all. There's no, that's not one where we expect someone to leave on bad terms, but probably just deserves his shot at being the number one somewhere.
Yeah, and with the Euros coming up, I hope that he gets his opportunities to represent his country in World Cups, upcoming Euros, because he deserves it. I think he's such a good. It never caused any issues. He's such a model professional, and he just gets on and cracks on. And yeah, if he does go, I think again it was. I liken it to like the likes when Lallana went and Gini Wijnaldum went. It's like, I wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah.
Like the absolute best. Go out there and kill it for somebody else, because that's what you deserve. But at the end of the day, Alisson Becker's the best goalkeeper in the world for me. And that's a very difficult position to actually make your own. So, we'll see. And, Steve listed a few clubs. I think there'll be way more than that, if I'm honest. I could probably count on 3 fingers who I would think is a better goalkeeper in the Premier League than Kelleher. So yeah, we'll see what happens with him. It is going to be an interesting one. Is there anyone, while we wind down here, is there anyone who you would like to see come in? Is there anyone in particular you'd go, okay, I want this player, and I don't care how much it is. Like, I want him. Let's get him in. He's going to make an impact and a difference.
Yeah, for me, it's Nico Williams. He's electric. I think it's the time for him to make the move. I think Bilbao, having won a domestic cup, that was their first trophy in 60 years, 80 years, a long time. Now, I just think now would be the right time for him to make that step. I think you could probably get him for a reasonable amount of money. And I think he would be the future of the right wing. So that's, for me, he's the one. But for you, anybody who really is like, that's, we know for our friend Steven, it's always Inacio. But
yeah. No, I think if we're going out, you've mentioned the right wing. For me, Jared Bowen, I generally think. I said it a couple of seasons ago, actually, and I've always stuck with it, especially this season. He, by scoring today, is West Ham's top goal-scoring Premier League player since Paolo Di Canio, who also, I think 16 years ago, matched Jared Bowen's goal tally. And for me, imagine Bowen in a Liverpool shirt. And this is no discredit to West Ham, because I have always had the utmost respect for West Ham. Lots of my friends actually support West Ham, and I've been a few times, and I do really like them as a club. But at the same time, West Ham and Liverpool carving out those chances, but Bowen would have slotted so many more goals for Liverpool this season than what he has for West Ham, and probably more so than most Liverpool strikers and forwards as well, because we've been pretty woeful over the past few weeks. I know that he's 28, and I know that he's going to cost quite a lot of money, but if we're going to replace Mohamed Salah for a few years, Bowen is the only one really for me who I can say, yes, 100% Premier League proven, absolute goal scorer off the right-hand side, not through the middle. I know that he doesn't fit the FSG mold, but for me, ideally, I'm not saying realistically, but ideally, he's the one who I'd like to bring in.
I really love him. I think it's a great shot. I think he can still really do a job. And I think you're 100% spot on with it. I'm not that worried about it. Jurgen said, the best years are 27 to 32. You could still get Bowen on a 4-year contract, and not have to expect 2 full contract terms out of someone. Whether or not, like you said, FSG will, and Michael Edwards will take that opinion, I don't know, but
nah, they won't. I mean, and listen, he will be in his prime if he's not already. This is the time to go out and get him. If you want a player to make an immediate impact and someone to come in to replace not the numbers that Salah posts, but getting quite close to it. I think it was his 16th goal of the season today, was it?
So.
And Salah's obviously on 17 in the Premier League. So, he's up there. He's quite close to it. Obviously, he's never going to bang in the 32 that Salah did, but there's not many two people who can.
Yeah.
So yeah, he'll be costly. And listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen because it won't. But if we're asking, who would you like? That's who I would personally like.
I mean, he should be starting for England this summer at the Euros. He won't be.
England is the most frustrating. That I am an England fan. I know that's not a popular thing to say on a Liverpool stream, but I do want England to do well, and it's the most frustrating thing to be an England fan because we have such a wealth of talent and attacking ability. And Jared Bowen doesn't even start, for England. And, it's just bananas to me that we're probably not going to win the Euros. And, that's possibly down to one person.
And Marcus Rashford will start the whole time.
Who absolutely does not deserve to start. And I know that he's hit out, hasn't he, on social media today saying the abuse needs to stop. I agree. It absolutely does need to stop. But at the same time, I do think that's a reflection on the way that perhaps he's been playing. And again, someone who I always wanted at Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp was Marcus Rashford, because could you imagine a Rashford under Klopp?
He had the skill set to do everything that he would have wanted him to. I was looking at his goals, assists, 7 goals, 2 assists for the whole Premier League campaign. Like, it's 31 matches. It just is not. It's just is not enough. He should not be starting for England, but alas, he will.
Yep, he will do, because Calvin Phillips will probably start in for England as well. Or at least making the plane.
Correct.
Any last thoughts or anything else that you would like to say before we leave today?
Oh, yeah, I'm hoping for the uptick in an attitude from some of these guys for the last couple of games. It's because of this downturn in form. I feel like it's lost on a lot of us. How special this era has been, and we just have a really sour taste in our mouths now. We see it and we hear it from everybody we speak to about it, but it's like, they're ready for it to be over, and I'm just like just enjoy it for like 3 more matches, please, because in 8 or 9 months we don't know what it's going to be, so let's just enjoy it as much as we can.
And I just want them to run. Just don't stop running. Like, that's what was going through my head last week, and I was just like, don't stop running, because it just shows that you care, and and the fans have been, I think, a little bit dejected and jaded too. And it's just like that, the tackles and the running, that's what Liverpool DNA is. And I don't want us to lose that. And Jurgen Klopp deserves better than that in his last 3 games. So lads, listen, just please don't stop running, and get behind the boys. And it has been frustrating. I feel like we've tail ended off. But it's a huge 3 games, and they're difficult 3 games as well, especially the next 2. Spurs and Villa both gunning for the Champions League. They're going to be all up for it. Ollie Watkins is on fire this season. I think Aston Villa have done phenomenal. That's going to be a trickier game for me than the Spurs game next week. Villa away. So we need to get the job done for me against Spurs. It has to happen. And we'll probably be on the match preview saying this next week anyway, so we won't give too much away. But the Wolves home game, gosh, if you are going, one, have the best time of your life because you're never going to see it again. And two, be as loud as you can because you're never going to see it again.
Correct.
Right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to Paul. Thank you to Steve. Thank you for John Henry himself, who has confirmed he won't be signing Jared Bowen because he is too old, as we all probably knew. Thanks to Songi. Thanks to John Somers. Thanks to Colin. You've been active in the chats there as well, answering all of our fans. David Shakespeare, as a fellow English teacher, I love your last name. Gary Richards as well. So thank you for everyone for joining us and contributing tonight. If you haven't given us a like and a subscribe, please do so. But from now, and as always, up the Reds and have a very, very safe week. Colin and I will be back next week with a few others with the match preview. Okay, so take care. As always, up the Reds.